You meet someone new today, maybe at a coffee shop, maybe in a meeting, maybe just walking past them on the street. Your brain has already decided whether you trust them. It took less than a second. You didn't choose this. It happened before you had a single conscious thought about their face. This is not a metaphor, it is measurable. It has a name. Scientists call it thin slicing, and it shapes almost every relationship you will ever have, often before you've said a word. But the real answer to why this happens is far stranger than first impressions matter. It reaches back tens of thousands of years, into a world where a wrong guess about a stranger's intentions could end your life in seconds. Your brain was built for that world. You are still living in it, whether you realize it or not. Think about the last time you walked into a room full of strangers. Your eyes moved fast, face to face to face. You weren't reading their words. There were no words yet. You were reading something else: posture, eye contact, the angle of a jaw, a tightness around the mouth. Within moments, you had sorted every person in that room into categories you couldn't even name: safe, unsafe, interesting, ignore. You did this without trying. That's the unsettling part. It wasn't a decision. It was a reflex. Psychologist Alexander Todorov spent years studying exactly how fast this reflex fires. His research at Princeton found that people form judgments about a stranger's trustworthiness from a photograph in roughly 1/10 of a second. 1/10. That's faster than you can blink. Faster than you can read this sentence. And here's the part that should bother you. Giving people more time to look at the same face didn't significantly change their first verdict. It just made them more confident in it. Why would your brain be built to judge a stranger before it has any real information? Because for most of human history, hesitation was a luxury you couldn't afford. Picture an early human ancestor on the savannah, somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago. A figure appears at the edge of a clearing. There is no time for a slow, careful analysis. There is no time to gather evidence, weigh probabilities, consider context. There is only time for one question, answered almost instantly: threat or not threat? Get it wrong in one direction, and you waste energy fleeing a friendly stranger, mildly costly. Get it wrong in the other direction, and you don't get a second chance to learn from the mistake. The asymmetry is brutal, and brutal asymmetries are exactly what evolution responds to. This is the logic anthropologists call error management. When the cost of two mistakes is wildly unequal, natural selection doesn't favor the most accurate strategy. It favors the safest one. A nervous system that occasionally overreacts to a harmless stranger will survive. A nervous system that occasionally underreacts to a dangerous one might not get to pass on its genes at all. So your brain inherited a bias, not a flaw. A bias built for survival in small, dangerous, face-to-face bands of maybe 50 to 150 people, where every stranger really might be a threat, and every misjudgment really might matter. That number, by the way, isn't random. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed that the human brain, specifically the size of our neocortex, can only comfortably track stable relationships with around 150 people. Psychologists now call it Dunbar's number. Beyond that circle, in the ancestral world, almost everyone you encountered actually was a stranger. And strangers, statistically, in a world without police, without contracts, without any of the modern scaffolding that protects you now, were a genuine and constant risk. Now fast forward. You live in a city of millions. You pass hundreds of strangers a day. Almost none of them intend you any harm. Your conscious mind knows this. Your nervous system did not get the memo. It still runs the ancient program, fast, automatic. almost impossible to override through willpower alone. That tightening in your chest when someone unfamiliar sits too close on the train. That instant, wordless read you get on a stranger's face before you've even registered that you're reading it. That isn't paranoia, it's inheritance. Here's where the story gets stranger. Researcher Nalini Ambady, working at Harvard, discovered something that should unsettle you even more. She showed people silent video clips of teachers, just a few seconds long with no sound at all. Then she asked viewers to rate how effective they thought each teacher was. Their snap judgments, made from a few seconds of muted footage, closely matched the evaluations those same teachers received from students after an entire semester of classes. A few seconds, no words. And it predicted months of accumulated experience. Ambady called this thin slicing. The idea that your brain can extract a startling amount of accurate information from a very thin slice of behavior, not always accurate, but accurate often enough that it feels like instinct rather than guesswork. Why would this be possible? Because nonverbal signals are leaking constantly. A confident stance, a genuine smile that reaches the eyes versus one that doesn't. The micropause before someone answers a question. You've been trained across your entire life and across the entire evolutionary history of your species to read these signals without realizing you're reading them. This is also where psychologist Paul Ekman's research becomes important. Ekman spent decades studying facial expressions across radically different cultures, including isolated communities in Papua New Guinea who had almost no contact with the outside world. He found that certain core expressions, fear, anger, disgust, joy, surprise, sadness, were recognized the same way across cultures that had never been in contact with each other. That consistency is the signature of something ancient, something wired in before language, before culture, before any of the things that supposedly make us different from one another. Your face is still speaking a language older than your words. So when you meet a stranger, you are not starting from zero. You are running millions of years of pattern recognition in a fraction of a second, layered with your own personal history of every face that has ever hurt you or helped you. This is why first impressions feel so powerful and so hard to shake. They aren't shallow. They are dense. They are compressed. Your brain is doing in a tenth of a second what would take a written report pages to explain, and it's doing it with tools forged under conditions of real danger where being slow to judge could be fatal. But here's the twist inside the twist. This system, built for a world of small bands and obvious threats, is now operating in a world of strangers, screens, and algorithms it was never designed for. Think about how often you form a snap judgment of someone today, a dating profile, a LinkedIn photo, a stranger's comment online, a new coworker's tone in a single email. None of these are the kind of stranger your ancestors evolved to judge. There's no shared context, no tribe, no repeated encounters to correct a wrong first guess. And yet the same tenth of a second machinery fires anyway, applying ancient rules to a completely modern situation. This mismatch has a name in evolutionary psychology. Researchers call it an evolutionary mismatch, when a trait that was adaptive in one environment becomes maladaptive, or at least unreliable, in a radically different one. Your craving for sugar made sense when fruit was rare. It makes less sense in a world of vending machines. Your instant judgment of strangers made sense when every stranger was local and consequential. It makes less sense when stranger can mean a stock photo, a username, or a face glimpsed for half a second in a crowded subway car you'll never see again. And yet you can't simply switch it off. Todorov's research found something almost uncomfortable here too. Even when people were explicitly told that a face wasn't reliable evidence of anything, even when they consciously knew better, the snap judgment still happened. It still influenced behavior. Knowing about the bias didn't delete it, it just gave you the option to notice it. That might be the most useful thing this research offers you. Not the power to stop judging strangers in an instant. You can't. That circuitry is older than your ability to read this sentence. But the power to recognize the moment it's happening. To notice the verdict your brain just handed you and ask quietly where that verdict actually came from. Because the next stranger you meet isn't standing in a clearing on the savannah. They're not a silhouette at the edge of your territory, where guessing wrong could cost you your life. They're a person sitting across a table, or a face in a video call, or a name in your inbox. The ancient alarm system that built you a chance at survival is still ringing. It just doesn't always know what century it's in. So tonight, when you meet someone new, watch yourself for a second. Notice the verdict arrive before the conversation even starts. That isn't a flaw in your character. It's a message from every ancestor who survived long enough to become you. And the real answer to why your brain decides in 7 seconds was never really about speed at all. It was about a world where slowness could kill you. A world that, for 1/10 of a second at a time, you are still quietly living in.